Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play Suzerain, where we pick up right where we left off last time with major military overhauls. Well, reading the newspaper, one of the articles is about major military overhauls. The Ministry of Defense has announced a new ambitious military modernization plan in order to solve the outdated equipment issues and other shortages in the armed forces. Defense Minister Isof Lancia praised the administration for its resolve to form a force that can adapt to the challenges of a new era in warfare. Our nearby enemies won't dare to face the reformed military might of Sordland in the future, said Lancia in a formal announcement. To meet the equipment and structural demands, the military-industrial complex and international arms contractors have been contacted. The General Staff made no comment regarding the changes. Second Contention satellite in space. Interesting. Not a fan of that. Government backs rural development. In a significant move, the government has decided to back the Gruni rural development. Guys, I think you're late. We did that a while ago. This investment in our rural economies aims to bolster agricultural productivity and secure our food supplies. While the cost of the investment is considerable, the potential benefits to our agrarian communities and national food security could well justify the expenditure. Massive protests in Bergia against Governor Braun. Can't fault them for that. Not a fan of it. And Raqqa leads investment round in Gassam. And Raqqa is leading the way in a new round of investment in Gassam, with Quinal and Galmland also expressing interest. The decision to invest by these nations could potentially stimulate Gassam's financial recovery and open new avenues for international cooperation. This move signals a shift in the global market or energy market and could significantly impact Sordland's energy sector. Let's see. So, modernization program, adequately equipped military. Unfortunately, yeah, it's not going to be a great equipped military, but it'll be better. Gruni, beacon of success. Boosted by well-placed investments, Gruni is witnessing a surge in economic progress. The region, celebrated for its vineyards, tourism, and critical ports, is evolving into a key center for trade and commerce in Sordland. Businesses and investors are increasingly, oh my god, it's going up. I just noticed for our growth. Recognizing Gruni's growth potential and economic vitality. Wonderful, that's always good to hear. Gruni regional growth advances in Volgan. Wonderful. Give me more. Education reforms. The Ministry of Education is reporting that the massive overhaul to the education system is progressing very well. All schools in Sordland will collaborate in the reduction of hours taught in citizenship, soulism, and nationalism subjects. Significant efforts are being made to lessen the political indoctrination in education. Other changes are also happening in the curriculum. What is that? Pedagogical? I don't know. Improvements like improved teacher-student relations and the emphasis on critical thinking development have begun all across the entire country. Minister Walda reports solid progress on many fronts, with few schools delaying the transformation on political grounds. Foreign energy investments flow into Ribal. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Protests against Governor Braun's security policies. Yeah, won't fault you on that. I would certainly consider that valid. Regional growth stagnates in Deer. Well, that's not very good. Downsizing announced at Narbel's Gassam branch. Well, that's not very fun. While aimed at enhancing operational efficiency has stirred concerns among the existing workforce, the economic repercussions of this move on Narbel's local economy and the future trajectory on Gassam are subjects of close attention. That's not great. The H3 highway nears completion. Good, good, good. Foreign energy investments surge. Yep, they already told us about that before, and that's good. Death of former Black Battalion Brigadier General. In Estford, a former Brigadier General of the Black Battalion has been found dead. The cause of death is currently under investigation. The brigadier general, who once held a significant position in the military establishment in the 1930s, had many followers from the NFP, and his sudden death has caused a stir in the city. Not too surprising, Esford's sector draws foreign investors. Wonderful, wonderful. Give me more of that, because I kind of need this to go up and higher. Like, a lot. What do you have over here? ATO embraces the new paradigm. PMC's legitimized. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, really? Really? The ATO is going to do that? They're going to legitimize the use of private military companies? Okay. I don't find that to be all that great. Okay, so, I don't know necessarily if the order matters, because we haven't completed the highway. Presumably just the fact that we chose it should be enough for Agnolia to be willing to talk. I would think. But I don't know that for certain. Well, I say willing to talk, but more accurately, give us what we want. Or we can go and talk to Wehlen, who is pretty much guaranteed to not give us anything. I'm inclined to talk with Agnolia first, because we should get a nice easy yes from them before we go and deal with Wehlen, who's almost assuredly going to tell us no, or they're going to ask for something silly in exchange. So Trey talks with the Prime Minister of Agnolia. Sordland 1's flight from Hullsword to Stallport took 3 hours, but went very smoothly. We were about to touch down. David left his seat and came over while Simon was enjoying his newspaper. Looks like we are about to land, Mr. President. I looked outside. I could see Heligeland, the island in between Vogsland and Agnolia. So many conflicts over such a small piece of land. The island can barely sustain itself without outside help. I don't blame them. It is in a very strategic position. Certainly, if you have Heligeland, you are in control of the whole Volgos channel. I suspect it will be one of the topics that Mr. Van Horten will bring up as a bargaining chip. We must be careful. Heligeland might be under the control of Agnolia, but the international community has yet to recognize it, for a good reason too. Nobody wants to make an enemy of Vogsland, especially because of the support of United Cantana and the CSP. Certainly agreed, me included. I wouldn't want to do anything to injure our relationship with Vogsland. I agree, we should try our best to stick to the middle ground. Simon folded his newspaper, got up from his seat, and sat right next to us. Aside from the point of Heligeland, we need to be careful with the additional requests. According to the deal that was negotiated so far, they want to sell us their steel for a higher price, and they are requesting easier access to our agricultural market. In return, they are promising cash flow and investments, especially in the Anglian region. It's not hard to guess why. Precisely, Agnolian immigrants in our Anglian region make up a good chunk of the area's economy now. During the initial negotiations, they brought up the topic of immigration many times. The fact that we have relaxed our immigration laws will help tremendously. Let's see if we can shake hands on it. The pilot made an announcement that the descent had started. David and Simon went back to their seats. I took another look outside the window. I could see Stallport, the capital city of Agnolia. The large dockyards of the city and the canals, Stall in Agnolian, appeared closer as our descent continued. Stallport was clearly a fitting name. A couple of minutes later, we finally touched down. The plane parked. I took a final look out the window. The welcoming ceremony from Agnolia was waiting along the red carpet outside. After the guards made their way out, I exited the plane. Let's wave at the crowd. I waved at the crowd that gathered. There were many camera flashes. I started to make my way downstairs. Prime Minister Van Horten was nowhere in sight. Instead, I was greeted by the foreign minister. After handshakes and a couple of photos, I moved to the car where Sergei was waiting to drive me to the office of Prime Minister. Good day, sir. I hope the flight was comfortable. Yes, it was. Thank you, Sergei. I got in the car and we made our way through the foreign streets. Our convoy was protected by Sordish and Agnolian guards in their vehicles. We got on the highway beside the port and saw dozens of dockyards and ships anchored. Some of the boats and machinery looked old. The city itself looked very gray and grim. The buildings had a touch of Rumberg's famous monarchan architecture with a mixture of Swordish signature domes on the older ones. We are now on the main road to the office of the Prime Minister. Looks like they are not too happy to see you, sir. Not sure how I feel about that. Sergei pointed at the crowd that gathered on both sides of the street. It was a protest. They were shouting and yelling at our convoy. Some of them held signs written in Swordish. Sordland must pay its debts to Agnolia. You know, I never knew Agnolians were so ungrateful. Not everyone sees a great leader like you every day. There have been so many issues in Sordland, I don't know if I can call myself a great leader. They can yell all they want. I know what it is. They're always scared of Sordland's potential. Now they are afraid that a lion leads Sordland. They are afraid of you. The convoy started slowing down. We've arrived, sir. The car continued through the gates while the security vehicles went the other way. We finally came to a stop in front of the door. Sergei left the car and opened the car door. I exited and began walking to the door where dozens of press and the Prime Minister were waiting for me. I saw the PM much more clearly as I neared the door. He was shorter than I thought. Mr. President, welcome to Agnolia and to the beautiful city of Stalport. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. It is great to be here. He reached out for a handshake. The press surrounding us had been waiting for this moment. I really want to do a shake hands and hug after. I really do. I feel like overpowering his handshake, while I can understand the mentality of doing it, kind of seems like a we're not going to give you what you want kind of move. Which I don't really want to do. I want to act like we actually get along, you know. We're in this for the long haul. To build a better relationship between our two countries. So, you know, we're going to shake hands and hug after. We shook hands and I went for a hug, which was received well by the Prime Minister. The press went wild and took more pictures. He gestured to the entrance of the 200-year-old Parliament building. This way, please. We entered and the press followed us inside. We'd like to present you with a gift as a sign of friendship between our countries. An assistant showed up immediately with a large glass case in her hands. It contained a single sheet of parchment inside. This here is one of the first treaties written between Sordland and Agnolia. They had marked the renewal of our friendship today as well. This is an amazing gift, thank you. Our photos were taken again. I gestured at one of my retainers who was holding our gift to the PM. I'm not sure which to pick. I kind of want to do the ceremonial sword. Although, the whole thing here is that they want us to buy their steel at a higher price. And giving them a sword made of Swordish steel, I feel like kind of spits on that to an extent. So they've given us one of the first treaties written between Sordland and Agnolia. I'd assume it's a copy, but I don't know that for certain. I feel like the obvious way of returning that would be gifting them one of the original copies of the first Constitution of Sordland. Also, giving him a puppy, despite knowing his fear of dogs, is probably really not a great idea. You know what? I think we're going to basically return it. They gave us one of the first treaties written between our countries. I'm going to give them one of the original copies of the Constitution of Sordland. Ah, an excellent copy. I've always wondered what one of the originals looked like. Thank you for this excellent gift. The camera has flashed once again. Let's go to my office. Follow me. I followed him and we entered the office of the Prime Minister. With its minimalist wooden door, the room was far more modest than I expected. We sat down, he leaned back and made himself comfortable. Sheesh, I'm thankful to be done with the ceremonies. I was about to say the same. Not fond of these either. It's one of the tougher parts of our job. He got up from the chair and moved over to the bar. There were many varieties of liquor. Would you like a drink, Mr. Rain? I wouldn't mind some Agnolian vodka. Ah, you know your drink. He poured the drinks and gave mine to me before sitting down again. A true gentleman. I can respect that about you, Mr. Horton. That is how we do things in Agnolia, Mr. Rain. I appreciate the kind words, but flattery alone won't sway me this day. First of all, I would like to say that I have been watching your recent immigration policy changes. I am glad that you have decided to keep it relaxed. Immigrants are very important for beneficial economical development. We believe that very much in Agnolia. It is reassuring to see Sordland move in a more modern direction. Thank you. He took a sip from his vodka. So, tell me, Mr. Rain, is Sordland a reliable trading partner to Agnolia? Of course, Mr. Van Horten, you can trust Sordland. Very good. He paused for a moment. It was a good move to start building that highway. Overall, this will positively affect our trade. Very well done, Mr. Rain. Well, I didn't do it for Agnolia, I did for the people of Sordland. Of course, everything we do is for our people. Van Horten leaned back further in contemplation. Let's change the course of our nations. First of all, if we shake hands on it, this agreement is going to be extremely beneficial for both of us. You should be able to solve your recession in no time with the investment in money flow coming from us. This is, as you know, on top of the reduced tariffs for trade between our countries. Of course, in return, as discussed between my people and your people before, you will allow us privileged access to your agricultural market. You will be buying steel from us for a higher price, which is a small price to pay, really. That is the deal. What do you say, Mr. Rain? It's a temporary, I want to say it's a temporary hit to the government budget. It'll benefit us in the long run, I feel like. If things play out the way I expect, at least. I accept. Excellent. Before we dive into the paperwork for the trade deal, I want to offer you another possibility. I would like to expand on our new partnership. We have regional forces like Rumburg that have been imposing danger on both of our countries. I'm of the mind that we must unite. So, by the powers bestowed upon me as Prime Minister of Agnolia, I am offering a military alliance between Sordland and Agnolia. What do you think? I mean, I did literally just say last part. Pretty sure it was last part. I don't think it was earlier this one. Pretty sure it was last part. I had talked about if we got into a fight with Rumburg, the whole thing is we've got our Arkazian Air Force sitting at our major Air Force base in Urlori. Because we're trying to sort of buddy up with the ATO and Arkasia, because that's very much beneficial for us if we enter into this universe's version of NATO, basically. Or at least get some sort of supports, even if we don't necessarily join in. Although we probably would have to actually get the support in question. I really think we'd have to be crazy, in my opinion, to not accept this. I really do. I just don't see how we say, no, I think we can go it alone just fine to Agnolia. I think they're very useful as an ally. I accept. That is excellent to hear. Our ministers will go over the details later. Now that we have gone this far and are willing to enter an alliance, there's another topic that I would like to bring up. I knew this was coming. As you know, Helgeland has been long contested between Agnolia and Sordland. Those warmongers want to take back the island. Well, if they want to take it back, that implies that you took it from them in the first place. So, yeah, you know how the international community does not recognize our rightful claim on the island, including Sordland. What better act to cement our alliance than announcing to the world that Sordland recognizes Helgeland to the Agnolian community? You're asking too much. It is a reasonable request, but I won't push too far on the matter. We have achieved enough for today. Well then, he stood up from his chair. We must continue the official program. As you know, we will pay a visit to our founder's grave for another ceremony. Afterwards, we will move on to the state dinner. After you. As soon as we left the office, I briefed Simon and David on the outcome of the meeting. The rest of our state trip was full of fake smiles, handshakes, incredibly long ceremonies, and even longer meetings between our ministers and their counterparts. When we came to the end of the trip, the way back was mostly silent. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief when we touched down in Wholesword. It was time to discuss the good news. So, government budget decreased, Agnolia priority in agricultural market, higher prices, steel imports from Agnolia, recovered trade volume, joint military exercises, alliance with Agnolia, trade initiative. What do we got here? Sordland and Agnolia inter-alliance. Sordland is entering a military alliance with Agnolia, along with a new trade deal between the two countries, which comes into effect on Tuesday. Why is it always Tuesday? Agnolian Prime Minister Van Horten told reporters that this alliance is a historic development that will benefit both countries economically and diplomatically. He also said that this will help both countries stay strong against external threats, pointing out both countries' concern regarding their neighbor Rumburg. Apart from the military alliance, Sordland will open its agriculture market to Agnolia with a new trade agreement. The deal will also see an increase in trade volume between the two countries, particularly in Agnolian steel. We will continue to advocate for a continued fair trade between our two countries in a relationship that has been extraordinarily beneficial to both Agnolia and Sordland, Van Horten said. He congratulated President Rain for bringing the two countries closer together. A new alliance in Eastern Marcopa. As a result of his recent Agnolian visit, yada yada yada. This is basically just reiterating that with a little bit less fluff. Let's see. But this one. Yesterday morning, Chancellor Vogsland Hegel delivered a press conference in Halem about the escalating tensions in Helgeland. During the press release, he said, Agnolia's unlawful occupation of the island will not stop us from doing whatever it takes to protect our people living in Helgeland. He heavily criticized and condemned Prime Minister Van Horten, saying, we are dealing with an illegal occupation force which doesn't refrain from entering our territorial waters without asking our permission. Van Horten is playing with fire, and if he is not careful, he might get burned, said Hegel. Geopolitical will be watching the developments closely. So this is, I'm going to be honest, Helgeland in many ways really just kind of feels like a Falklands type situation, although not completely, obviously. But it's got some similarities. It's a relatively strategic island that is incapable of supporting itself, so basically any population there needs to be related to a neighboring country. Whether that be Agnolia, Vogsland, or maybe even Sordland if we really wanted to. We don't, but if we really wanted to. But over here we have joint military exercises, recovered trade volume, which is great, trade initiative, and trade with Agnolia. And then, of course, the alliance, which is very helpful. Agnolian priority in agricultural market. This is sort of just a neutral-ish situation. Same with the higher price steel imports. The main thing there is just that The increased trade, in theory, should help to offset that in many ways. Especially since we've also improved our agricultural market itself with our investments down here in Groony, which in theory should help us to be able to export more, and especially potentially at higher prices, while still maintaining lower prices within our country, at least for the stuff that can be grown out here in Groony. I don't know what it is that they grow. Bergian police ambushed by young militants. The reality is, I think this next one is going to be pretty short because it's basically going to be a no. I'm pretty sure. I mean, unless he asks for something that's actually reasonable to still give us the trade agreement, I'm expecting this to be a we're going to go there and basically walk away disappointed. I got a little over 19 minutes left on my clock, so I think we can do this. Sordland 1's flight from Holsword to Rakalwitz, I probably mispronounced that, took approximately 5 hours. Despite heavy turbulence, I managed to sleep a little. Simon, David, and I landed at the international airport of the capital city of Wehlen. Our aim here was to finalize the trade deal drafted between Sordland and Wehlen. Our plane landed and the door opened. The sun blinded me for a moment. I stepped outside. I saw the soldiers lined up on either side of the red carpet. There must have been at least 100 of them. A marching band started playing, and the soldiers immediately saluted me. We'll salute them. At the bottom of the stairs, Victor Smolak was waiting for me next to a military jeep with a few soldiers by his side. There were a few reporters at the edge of the crowd waiting with their cameras. He was a tall man, almost as tall as me. He was wearing large sunglasses and a regular suit, contrasting with the military attire of everyone else in the field. "Mr. President, welcome to Rakalwitz." He immediately motioned for an embrace. He hugged and many cameras went off at the same time. He turned around for a couple of additional poses. Pull him aside for a couple more poses ourselves. "Now that the pleasantries are done, let's go. We will take the jeep for a tour." With another tune from the marching band, we boarded the military jeep. He sat at the driver's seat and I sat next to him. As we started speeding away, the soldiers saluted again. Victor saluted back. We'll salute them again. Both of our security details started following us immediately, along with a team of reporters. We will first go to the city center to see the unveiling of a statue. Whose statue? Mine, of course. Yeah. The guy's a dictator. We kept making small talk about the flight and the weather as we made our way towards the city center. On almost every corner, there were reporters taking photos of us. Aside from them, though, the streets seemed completely empty. Is Rakalwitz always this empty? I had this part of the city closed down because of your visit so that you could enjoy the city in peace. There we go. I don't want that, though. I'd rather see it lively and stuff. We arrived at the center. In the middle of a large plaza, there was a covered statue. Large crowds of people were gathered behind the fences, waving both Sordland and Wehlen flags. Victor, it's probably supposed to be pronounced with like a German, so it's probably Victor, not Victor, but whatever. Waved back at them. "My people have been very supportive of this visit, Mr. President. I am sure you are delighted to see them." He says, well, they're probably either being paid or forced to be there. A man came close to the fence and started yelling at Victor. With the limited knowledge of the Wezek language, I understood the words Victor and murderer. Almost instantaneously, 2 soldiers came up from behind the man and he was taken away. Thankfully, the sun is out. Today will be a good day for the reveal. "What will happen to the man who was protesting you?" "Oh, which man? That one in the crowd?" "Don't worry about the details. He must have been a troubled fellow. Let's focus on the event." We took our places in front of the statue with a drum roll. The statue of Victor Smollett was covered. It was a fairly good likeness, albeit more muscular than the real Victor. He was wearing a cloak and holding a sword in his hand. Excellent statue, very lifelike. What do you think? Our artists can do better in Sordland. His face soured. Well, then I'd like to contact one. He turned to the soldiers and started yelling at them in Wezek. The soldiers covered the statue again. Join me for a walk. Why are you covering it up again? Is he upset that people might throw tomatoes at it? I followed him through the streets, and at every corner more and more photos were taken. We stopped in front of a pastry vendor on the street. Give me 2 strudels. The man behind the stand smiled and gave us 2 strudels. Probably a soldier who was told to dress up as a chef or a baker. Bring to pay the street vendor. I put my hand on my wallet and brought up some money to give the vendor. Hold up, your money doesn't count here. I got this. He handed the money to the street vendor with a huge smile on his face. The cameras flashed again. Afterwards, we walked a short distance to the palace. We did that because he probably wasn't going to pay. Doing so basically forced him to do so. Granted, if that was actually the baker there, probably got taken out back and shot afterwards. And the money taken back. Passing the gates, we made our way into the main building, made from ivory-colored stones. The old guard towers flanked the magnificent structure from both sides. The inside of the palace was very spacious, with a very large chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Grand staircases made from the same ivory stone had red carpets on them. On the upper levels, guards stood wearing the traditional outfits of the old Wezek kingdom. We finally reached the office of the president of Wehlen. The door closed behind us. I looked around at the golden ornaments on the walls and the various jewel-encrusted artifacts. As it was customary in Wehlen, we sat down on the carpet. Now we can talk about our trade deal. Finally. But before that, he clapped his hands twice, bring the Keisha. A few assistants immediately entered the room carrying a large ornamented Keisha, the well-known smoking instrument originating from Wehlen. They immediately lit it up, and the room was filled with the smell of tobacco. Victor inhaled the smoke and handed me the Keisha. I don't smoke. Your loss, it's the finest tobacco in the land. I'm sure it is. He took another puff, filling the room with more smoke. So, Mr. President. Bah, that's too long. Can I call you Anton? I prefer my official title. Very well, Mr. President. Tell me, what do you really think about Rumburg? They're a threat to the region. I agree with your sentiments, Mr. President. They are a threat to everyone in the region. I assure you their time will come. Regardless, I would rather prevent further conflict in the region. You know as well as I do, Mr. President, they are coming whether we like it or not. They are the aggressor, not us. Agreed. But I would still try to avoid it. We will do everything in our power to avoid the war, but we will also be prepared for it when it inevitably breaks out, because it almost assuredly will. The only thing we want to do is try to delay it until we're in a position that's more favorable. That's the main thing. And now, I need to solve some problems they are creating for me. What is it? He clapped his hands again. 2 assistants came into the room with a map of the border regions between Wehlen and Sordland. He pointed at the border. Look. Bloods and their so-called BFF are causing problems for me in this region. They're getting increasingly dangerous with Rumburg's active support. I know that they are a problem for you as well. I will not allow these traitors to exist within my borders, so I will hit them with all the might of Wehlen. These terrorists need to be destroyed. Excuse me. I will cut all of their supplies from Rumburg and trap them on the mountains. I call it Operation Bear Trap. This one gets a little bit funky, okay? So the BFF as an organization is definitely a potential problem for us. But also, I'm not too big on how Wehlen handles their stuff. Basically, their strategy is going to be put these guys into a mountain and just bomb the mountain into oblivion. And everything around it as well. Resulting in potentially lots of civilian casualties, depending upon how populous this region is. It's probably not significant, but nonetheless, I don't exactly know, what the geography is necessarily like in this game, especially for another country that is not Sordland. For now, we will ask what he wants from us, and we'll go from there. He grinned and lay back on the large pillow behind him. Here is the deal. I will give you objectively the best trade deal in the region. You will give your assistance crushing the terrorists on both of our borders. I need specifics. Sure. My spies have infiltrated BFF cells and they found caches of KA-74 as we trace them back to Rumburg. This alone justifies my retaliation to protect my country. Worst of all, we also found that similar shipments are going to Sordland. Rumburg is trying to unite the BFF forces in both of our countries. However, the main problem is the border security between our nations. BFF militants have been using the mountains between Sordland and Wehlen to escape justice in both of our countries. If we don't act and trap them in those mountains, they will keep replenishing their forces in both of our countries and keep waging war against our citizens. Yes, Mr. President, you see, this is not just Wehlen's problem. Let's take a step back and talk about what you will get in return. I propose you a no-tariff agreement, co-investment projects and oil. In return, you will assist me in destroying the armed militants in my country. You know that as long as they use the mountains in Wehlen as a base, Sordland and Lispia will equally suffer. This is in the interest of the whole region. That's where it's not. For my own personal game, I know that Lispia throws a hissy fit about that. Which requires me to, if I want to get a trade agreement with Lispia as well, I would need to give them, if I recall correctly, they wanted something from Gassom. I think they wanted some shares or something from Gassom, if I recall correctly. I don't recall the exact specifics of what it was, but I know they wanted something from Gassom, and I think it was enough that it would have technically, I think, violated the Energy Protection Act. There might be international ramifications. To hell with the international ramifications. I will protect my country. I don't care what they say. Victor, I'm not liking you. I didn't like you already. I'm liking you even less. What I want from you in return for all the money and the resources is only a joint operation between our armies against the BFF. Took a moment to think about it. I don't know what I can necessarily negotiate for this. Presumably I can still say no if the negotiations don't work out in a favorable way. It's the only thing I don't know. And I'm kind of just inclined to say no outright, rather than trying to negotiate and hope that I can say no at the end. Well, I presume that even if I can't actually say no at the end, I can ask for something so ridiculous that he'll say no. Is what I would think. I don't know if that's actually the case, however. I'm just going to say no, though. No deal. It's too risky. I'm afraid I can't accept. Wait, Mr. President, wait. Normally I wouldn't offer anything else, but I like you. Here's my final offer. When the operation starts, with you or without you, there will be stragglers trying to cross into Sordland. We just want you to support the operation even if you do not join. Stop the terrorists from fleeing into your country, and you will have our deal. Or you will have your deal. Simple, isn't it? So, what do you think? Again, this is a... how exactly does he expect this logic to work? I mean, technically we would be well within our rights if they cross into our country, fleeing the military operation that Wehlen does in the mountains there. I'm assuming these mountains are like up here-ish, relatively close to the border with Rumburg, to the point where they're capable of going back and forth between Sordland, Wehlen, and Rumburg. You know, they can go into Sordland to hide from Wehlen and vice versa, and then they can head into Rumburg to get resupplied. I'm curious. I don't believe there is an option here, but I am curious. There does not appear to be. That's a shame. So I don't know for that one. I was just kind of curious to see if there was an option to see. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, I'm inclined to just say no outright, honestly. I was just kind of curious to see if, you know, the guy that I look at sometimes to give you guys information regarding, you know, making this choice gives +1 to government budget, +3 to, you know, public approval and things like that. Just kind of curious if it had anything regarding, you know, getting the alliances and stuff basically for these countries, and it actually does. When it comes to Wehlen, basically what it says is so we'll get two, if we agreed, we would get 2 government budget, increasing our, improving our energy situation, and even increase the GDP of the Bergia region, positively affecting the economic development of all of Sordland. However, it has negative consequences. By doing this, when we negotiate with Lispia, this will significantly change from a civil deal where the Prime Minister demands the ability to purchase Sordish petroleum, something that's only possible if you have fully repealed the EPA, which we did not do. This is a very tricky scenario that you wouldn't be able to anticipate otherwise, and a potential game-breaking one, since Lispia is way more of a valuable ally. It also affects Sordland's image, making it impossible for you to kick Rumburg out of international trade, something that would be very favorable if we plan to go to war. So if we plan to force peace with Rumburg, do not ally with Wehlen. We need Rumburg out, and participating in out of international trade so they make weak peace demands, and partaking in Operation Bear Track doesn't help with that aim. Also, if we plan to ally Lispia, but we don't want to repeal the EPA, do not ally with Wehlen, because we'll be locked out of an alliance with Lispia. Also, it adds that even if we do, mind that Lispia and Wehlen are not buddies with each other, so be careful if you're going to war. What Wehlen has to go for it is that, unlike others, they don't seem to bother about your economic development if you declare war, and will join if possible. However, not addressing the Bludish population in Bergia will have them retreat from the fight. It seems that you'll have to fully abolish the Blood movement in the country, or amass a very considerable deal of Bludish opinion so that they don't interfere. All in all, allying Wehlen is a good idea on runs where you're planning for war, but a bad one if you're pushing for peace. If you want to war with them, go all in. The watered-down Operation Bear Trap won't lead to a military alliance, only economical. So, yeah, no, I'm inclined to say that's not what I'm looking for. It isn't. It just really isn't. So, yeah, no, we're just going to say no deal. I was already leaning that way because they're just not a good option. They really aren't. That's unfortunate. I thought we could be friends. But you decided to leave Wehlen to fend for itself. Such a shame. I am sure a powerful leader like Sol would have accepted this great offer without a doubt. Yes, but Sol was also a dictator. Or at least, he was. He was just maybe a bit better than a lot of the other ones in that he at least did step down at some point, allowing for a actual election and peaceful transition of power. But he was still a dictator. My assistants will show you the way. Goodbye, Mr. Rain. Take care of yourself, Victor. I returned to Sordland immediately. I felt relieved to be back in Holsword. Okay, we'll read those next time because it's gonna matter more next time. Oh, and I think the projected economic growth went up even more, which is great. Just needed to get even higher. I need to go as high as it can go. But that's gonna be it for this part. I will see you all next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell.